hallucination and imagination. Here we are, despite all the negative concoctions being created by individuals or the pseudo celebrities that everything is negative, things are not good, things are not looking good as these 6 months have raged on. We believe these pseudo celebrities the same way we do when we watch their pseudo movies and believe everything that is being said. Just like in movies, we leave our intellect behind and watch our movies. Same way when everything about this hallucination was being proposed and theories and hypotheses were being created. We succumbed ourselves to these pseudo celebrities' hypotheses, stop using our brains, and we know what is happening right now. Yes, a few things are logical with respect to what is happening right now, but that is only 5%. The rest of it is just not being able to use our intellect and say that 5% can be acceptable, the other 95% is just mere statistics. But that's not our concern right now. It is all about celebration. What a year it has been so far. 150 episodes, 175 episodes, 200 episodes, 225 episodes, 250 episodes, and now we are not far away from 275 episodes. With only 5 episodes to go. 275 isn't just another number. It is a lot bigger than that, and without getting too sentimental and too attached to what is happening right now, like we do to these pseudo celebrities and what not, and our special propensity to make a mountain out of a molehill. For me, the 275th episode, which is just over 12 days from today, will be celebrated in the same way I celebrated all the milestone this year, whether it is before Corona, after Corona, during Corona, that doesn't deter me. When I will celebrate, it will be at full tilt because terms like new normal, normal, before Corona, and such don't really affect me. It's quite amusing that we are behaving as if it's the end of the world, as if all the mythological apocalypse, all the folk tales about apocalypse and the end of the world, which has been passed down to us through oral stories and other means of storytelling. It's as if a few individuals are behaving as if it has come. Well, there is no proof. It's just a virus. It's just a flu season, but that's not the point. The double standards and the hypocrisy associated with cleanliness is there, which basically means that had this thing not happened, now it's a big if. If this thing had not happened, we would have continued on our unhygienic journey. This nature of human beings to react only when they are in trouble shows that everything we do is hypocrisy. Humans are hypocritic by nature. They were 1,000 years ago, they were right now, and they will be 1,000 years from now, irrespective of which mythology do we believe in. Amidst all this circus that has been happening, well, it continues to happen. You can't do anything about it. Well, I am going to celebrate my 275 episodes the same way I have always celebrated all my episodes. It's not about success or failure, it's about saying that I do not get affected by outside circumstances, outside environmental pseudo concerns. And that's the way it is because I say so. Labors of Hercules-Agatha Christie. Hercules-Poirot's flat was essentially modern in its furnishings. It gleamed with chromium. Its easy chairs, though comfortably padded, were square and uncompromising in outline. On one of these chairs sat Hercules-Poirot neatly in the middle of the chair. Opposite him in another chair sat Dr. Burton, fellow of all souls, sipping appreciatively at a glass of Perriot's Chateau Mouton Rothschild. There was no neatness about Dr. Burton. He was plump, untidy, and beneath his thatch of white hair beamed a rubicund and benign countenance. He had a deep, wheezy chuckle and the habit of covering himself and everything round him with tobacco ash. Dr. Burton was asking a question. Tell me, he said, why Hercules? You mean my Christian name? Hardly a Christian name, the other demurred. Definitely pagan, but why? That's what I want to know. Father's fancy, mother's whim, family reasons, if I remember rightly. Though my memory isn't what it was, you had a brother called Achille, did you not? Poirot's mind raced back over the details of Achille Poirot's career. Had all that really happened? Only for a short space of time, he replied. Dr. Burton passed tactfully from the subject of Achille Poirot. People should be more careful how they name their children, he ruminated. I've got children, I know. Blanche, one of them is called dark as gypsy. Then there's Deirdre of the sorrows. She's turned out merry as a grig. As for young Patience, might as well have been named Impatient and be done with it. And Diana, well, Diana, the old classic scholar, shuddered, weighs 12 stone now, and she's only 15. They say it's puppy fat, but it doesn't look that way to me. Diana, they wanted to call her Helen, but I did put my foot down there, knowing what her father and mother looked like, and her grandmother for that matter. I tried hard for Martha or Dorcas or something sensible, but it was no good. Waste of breath. Rum people, parents. Began to wheeze gently, his small, fat face crinked up. Poirot looked at him inquiringly, thinking of an imaginary conversation. Your mother and the late Mrs. Holmes sitting sewing little garments or knitting. Achilles, Hercules, Sherlock, Mycroft. Poirot failed to share his friend's amusement. What I understand you to mean is that in physical appearance I do not resemble a Hercules. Dr. Burton's eyes swept over Hercules Poirot, over a small, neat person attired in striped trousers, correct black jacket, and natty bow tie, swept up from his patent leather shoes to his egg-shaped head and the immense moustache that adorned his upper lip. Frankly, Poirot, said Dr. Burton, you don't. I gather, he added, that you never had much time to study the classic. That is so. Pity, pity, you've missed a lot. Everyone should be made to study the classic if I had my way. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. Oh, bien, I've got on very well without them. Got on? Got on? It's not a question of getting on. That's the wrong view altogether. Classic aren't a ladder leading to quick success like a modern correspondence course. It's not a man's working hours that are important, it's his leisure hours. That's the mistake we all make. Take yourself now. You are getting on. You'll be wanting to get out of things, to take things easy. What are you going to do with your leisure hours? Sherlock was ready with his reply. I'm going to attend seriously to the cultivation of vegetable marrows. Dr. Burton was taken aback. Vegetable marrows? What do you mean? Those great swollen green things that taste of water? Ah, Poirot spoke enthusiastically, but that is the whole point of it. They need not taste of water. Oh, I know. Sprinkle them with cheese or minced onion or white sauce. No, no, you are in error. It is my idea that the actual flavor of the marrow itself can be improved. It can be given. He screwed up his eyes a bouquet. Good God, man, it's not a claret. The word bouquet reminded Dr. Burton of the glass at his elbow. He sipped and savored. Very good wine, this very sound, yes. His head nodded in approbation. But this vegetable marrow business, you are not serious? You don't mean he spoke in lively horror that you are actually going to stoop? His hands descended in sympathetic horror on his own plump stomach. Stoop and fork down on the things and feed them with strands of wool dipped in water and all the rest of it? You seem, Poirot said, to be well acquainted with the culture of the marrow. Seen gardeners doing it when I've been staying in the country. But seriously, Poirot, what a hobby! Compare that to his voice sank to an appreciative purr. An easy chair in front of a wood fire in a long, low room lined with books must be a long room, not a square one. Books all round one. A glass of port and a book open in your hand. Time rolls back as you read. He quoted sonorously. He translated. By skill again the pallet on the wine dark sea straightens, the swift ship buffeted by the winds. Of course, you can never really get the spirit of the original. Homer's Iliad, Book 1. With that, wow, his mother went away and left him there alone, his heart inflamed for the sash and lovely girl. They had went away from him against his will. Meanwhile, Odysseus drew in close to the Keres island, bearing the splendid sacrifice in the vessel's hold. And once they had entered the harbour deep in bays, they hauled and stowed the sail in the black ship. They lowered the mast by the forestays smoothly, quickly let it down on the forked mast crutch, rowed her into a mooring under oars. Out went the bowstones, cables fast astern, and the crew themselves swung out in the breaking surf, leading out the sacrifice for the archer god Apollo. And out of the deep ship Chryses stepped too. Then tactful Odysseus led her up to the altar, placing her in the loving father's arm, and said, Chryses, the lord of men Agamemnon sent me here. Bring your daughter back and perform a sacrifice, a grand sacrifice to Apollo, for all Achaea's sake, so we can appease the god, who's loosed such grief and torment on the Argives. With those words, he left her in Chryses' arms, and the priest embraced the child he loved. Exultant. At once the men arranged the sacrifice for Apollo, making the cattle ring his well-built altar. Then they rinsed their hands and took up barley. Rising among them, Chryses stretched his arm to the sky and prayed in a high, resounding voice, Hear me, Apollo, god of the silver bow who strides the walls of Kyres and Scylla, sacrosanct, lord and power of Tenedos. If you honored me last time and heard my prayer and rained destruction down on all Achaea's ranks, now bring my prayer to pass one more, now at last, drive this killing plague from the armies of Achaea. His prayer went up, and Phoebus Apollo heard him. As soon as the men had prayed and flung the barley, first they lifted back the heads of the victims, slit their throats, skinned them, and carved away the meat from the thigh bones, and wrapped them in fat, a double fold, sliced clean, and topped with strips of flesh. Old man burned these over dried split wood, and over the quarters poured out glistening wine, while young man at his side held 5-pronged forks. Once they had burned the bones and tasted the organs, they cut the rest into pieces, pierced them with spits, roasted them to turn, and pulled them off the fire. The work done, the feast laid out, they ate well, and no man's hunger lacked a share of the banquet, while they had put aside desire for food and drink. The young men brimmed the mixing bowls with wine, and tipping first drops for the god in every cup. They poured full rounds for all, and all day long they appeased the god with song, raising a ringing hymn to the distant archer god who drives away the plague. These young Achaean warriors singing out his power, and Apollo listened, his great heart warm with joy. Then, when the sun went down and the night came on, they made their beds and slept by the stern cables. When young Dawn with her rose-red fingers shone once more, they set sail for the main encampment of Achaea. The archer sent them a bracing following wind. They stepped the mast, spread white sails wide. The wind hit full, and the canvas bellied out, and a dark blue wave, foaming up at the bow, sang out loud and strong as the ship made way, skimming the white caps, cutting toward her goal. And once offshore of Achaea's vast encampment, they eased her in and hauled the black ship high, far up on the sand, and shored her up with timbers. Then they scattered, each to his own ship and shelter. But he raged on, grimly camped by his vast fleet, the royal son of Peleus, the swift runner Achilles. Now he no longer haunted the meeting grounds where men win glory. Now he no longer went to war, but day after day he ground his heart out, waiting there, yearning, always yearning for battle cries and combat. But now, as the 12th dawn after this shone clear, the gods who lived forever marched home to Olympus, all in a long cortege, and Zeus led them on. And Thetis did not forget her son's appeals. She broke from a cresting wave at first light, and soaring up to the broad sky and Mount Olympus, found the son of Cronus gazing down on the world, peaks apart from other gods, and seated high on the topmost crown of rugged ridged Olympus. And crouching down at his feet, quickly grasping his knees with her left hand, her right hand holding him underneath the chin, she prayed to Lord God Zeus, the son of Cronus. Zeus, Father Zeus, if I ever served you well among the deathless gods with a word or action, bring this prayer to pass. Honor my son Achilles, doomed to the shortest life of any man on earth. And now the lord of men, Agamemnon, has disgraced him, seizes and keeps his prize, tears her away himself. But you exalt him, Olympian Zeus, your urgings rule the world. Come, grant the Trojans victory after victory, till the Achaean armies pay my dear son back, building higher the honor he deserves. P.G. Wodehouse, stiff upper lip, Jeeves. The last straw. I had enough on my mind already. There is something disturbing you, sir. You are right, there is. Hell's foundations are quivering. What do you call it when a couple of nations start off by being all palsy walsy and then begin calling each other picks and bounders? Nations have deteriorated would be the customary phrase, sir. Well, relations have deteriorated between Miss Bassett and Gussie. He, as we know, was already disgruntled and now she's disgruntled too. She has taken exception to derogatory crack he made about the sunset. She thinks highly of sunsets and he told her they made him sick. Can you believe this? Quite readily, sir. Mr. Fink Nortel was commenting to me on the sunset yesterday evening. He said it looked so like a slice of underdone beef that it tortured him to see it. One can appreciate his feelings, I dare say, but I wish he'd keep them to himself. He also appears to have spoken disrespectfully of the blessed damosel. Who's the blessed damosel? Jeeves, I don't seem to have heard of her. The heroine of a poem by the late Dante Gabriel Rossetti, sir. She leaned out from the gold bars of heaven. Yes, I gathered that. That much was specified. Her eyes were deeper than the depths of waters stilled at even. She had 3 lilies in her hand and the stars in her hair were 7. Oh, were they? Well, be that as it may. Gussie said she made him sick too and Miss Bassett as sore as a sunburned neck. Most disturbing, sir. Disturbing is the word. If things go on the way they are, no bookie would give odds of less than 100 to 8 on this betrothal lasting another week. I have seen betrothals in my time, many of them, but never one that looked more likely to come apart at the seams than that of Augustus Fink Nortel and Madeline, daughter of Sir Watkin and the late Lady Bassett. The suspense is awful. Who was the chap I remember reading about somewhere who had a sword hanging over him attached to a single hair? Democles, sir, it is an old Greek legend. Well, I know just how he felt, and with this on my mind, I am expected to attend a ruddy school treat. I won't go. Your absence may cause remark, sir. I don't care. They won't get a smell of me. I'm oiling out and let them make of it what they will. Apart from anything else, I was remembering the story I had heard Pongo Twistleton tell one night at the drones, illustrative of how unbridled passions are apt to become at these binges. Pongo got mixed up once in a school treat down in Somersetshire, and his description of how, in order to promote a game called Is Mr. Smith at Home, he had to put his head in a sack and allow the younger generation to prod him with sticks, had held the smoking room spellbound. At a place like Totale, where even on normal days human life was not safe, still, worst excesses were to be expected. The glimpse or two I had of the local dead end kids had told me how tough a bunch they were and how sedulously they should be avoided by the man who knew what was good for him. I shall nip over to Brinkley in the car and have lunch with Uncle Tom. You at my side, I hope. Impossible, I fear, sir. I have promised to assist Mr. Butterfield in the tea tent. Then you can tell me all about it. Very good, sir. If you survive, precisely, sir. It was an easy drive to Brinkley, and I got there well in advance of the luncheon hour. Aunt Dahlia wasn't there, having as foreshadowed popped up to London for the day, and Uncle Tom and I sat down to a repast in Anatole's best vein. Over the supreme the foie gras au champagne and the neige au perle des Alpes, I placed him in possession of the facts relating to the black amber statuette thing, and his relief at learning that Pop Bassett hadn't got 1,000 quid objet d'art for a fiver was so profound, and the things he said about Pop B so pleasing to the ear that by the time I started back, my dark mood had become sensibly lightened and optimism had returned to its throne. After all, I reminded myself, it wasn't as if Gussie was going to be indefinitely under Madeline's eye. In due season, he would buzz back to London and there would be able to tuck into beefs and muttons till his ribs squeaked, confident that not a word of his activities would reach her. The effect of this would be to refill him sweetness and light, causing him to write her loving letters which would carry him along till she emerged from this vegetarian phase and took up stamp collecting or something. I know the other sects and their sudden enthusiasms. They get these craze and wallow in them for a while, but they soon become fed up and turn to other things. My aunt Agatha once went in for politics, but it only took a few meetings at which she got the bird from hecklers to convince her that the cagey thing to do was to stay at home and attend her fancy needlework, giving the whole enterprise a miss. I was getting on for what is called the quiet even fall when I anchored at Torteletta's. I did my usual sneak to my room, and I had been there a few minutes when Jeeves came in. "Oh, you arrived, sir," he said, "and I thought you might be in need of refreshment." I assured him that his intuition had not led him astray, and he said he would bring me a whisky and immediately. "I trust you found Mr. Travers in good health, sir," I was able to reassure him there. He was a bit low when I blew in, but on receipt of my news about the what-not blossomed like a flower. It would have done you good to have heard what he had to say about Pop Bassett.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.